I'm going to pass it over to Joe Medosch from measureQuick. Joe, you can take it over.
Great. Hopefully I'm up and running. Do you guys see that?
Yep.
Great. Okay. So there is a lot more that we can cover, and there's some really powerful names that are here on in the backside here. So for those of you that are doing true flow, or you're doing duct leakage, or you're doing whole home assessments, or a variety of other stuff, please chime in and tell people what you're doing and what do you regularly do, because some people are still trying to figure out this process here. The one thing I do want to highlight on what Steve just finished, which is incredibly powerful, but it also is incredibly dangerous. And when you have a lot of supply duct leakage, the house is going negative. And if you've got a domestic hot water tank in the house still, that's actually natural drafting, you can actually backdraft that appliance and actually cause carbon monoxide issues and other combustion issues in the house because of duct leakage. So these are some of the things that we're doing and not realize that if you seal up the return, maybe now my supply is still leaky. So these are all things you need to be doing. And this is fundamentally why BPI became as powerful as they were, is you always need to be checking when you have combustion appliances in the house, and duct leakage alone can actually cause some of these issues. So thanks for pointing that out, Steve. Well done. Okay, let's dig in. So there are so many studies that are out there that are just showing that we don't do a good job with HVAC systems. In fact, this is one that I've used and it's been rewritten many other times, but 70 to 90% of HVAC systems have energy wasting conditions. These are faults that are in the system that are problematic. And if you add duct leakage, it's almost 100% of systems have an issue, that so many homes have significant duct leakage. So these are some of the challenges. And this is actually the illustration on the right is just regular air conditioners and air source heat pumps in cooling mode, right? Let's elaborate here. So if we go forward, this is actually air source heat pump in heating mode. These are the things that we're failing to try to convert this. Oh, let's go into heat pumps, heat pumps, heat pumps. And many people are not doing a good enough job of diagnosing the existing system they have, or confirming that what they're installing is installed correctly. And airflow is a major significant part of that. So the whole duct concept has got a lot to wrap around. It's actually, we think of it as like, oh, it's so there and part of all of our homes, and that we're not actually acknowledging some of the conditions that we really should have been paying attention to. Most of the times, if you knew that there was a duct concept, or that was in the title, you'd be seeing stuff like this. Like we're doing, total pressurization or depressurization and total leakage, or even more complicated leakage to outside. But this was a surprise for me because I came from this world. I actually worked with ACCA a long time ago. I lived in Georgia. Georgia was one of the first states that required duct leakage and the blower doors back in 2013. That was 10 years ago, even more, 13 years ago. So it's been around for several areas, but is it actually enforced and done? And I now am in the HVAC world and out of more of the energy and IAQ, and I'm stunned at the few people that are actually testing their ducts, evaluating airflow, or doing anything to figure out what are the real problems, because it's the boxes are usually fine. It's how do I get from A to B that's actually causing all the issues. So this was kind of a major disappointment, that the amount of people that are really assessing that. And there are some great folks on this call that are in the background that do this and do this well. So chime in if you got advice about how you could recommend other contractors. The analogy that I usually give somebody, if you're going to get new tires, I'm like, we need new tires. It's that time of the year. It's expensive. And the tire person put them on and says, I really don't have a tire gauge. I think that the amount of air that's in them is good. So come back if it's low, and we'll put some more air in it. So if you're installing ducts, you're using ducts, if ducts are a part of your process that's in your HVAC world, and you are not measuring the conditions, then I'll be honest, I kind of say shame on you, because there's so many ways to do this now that the duct tester is clearly the most obvious, but we're now moving into another world where we can use things like the TrueFlow grid and other complementary stuff to kind of confirm, is it performing correctly? And even maybe can I extrapolate, is there potential leakage in this system? So this is our normal duct leakage test, all right? And we're now moving past this and getting into other options. So NCI and other folks are promoting that I could use my TrueFlow grid to actually get a total measurement out of this. That's the greatest thing about that. And there is no greater tool that's actually on the market right now that actually assess static pressures, which most people are not measuring either, and airflow, all in one quick step. This is actually usually if you took 10 minutes to do this test, it was probably because you actually were first time doing it. It goes fairly quick and you can get all your measurements and you find out what your total flow is. Once I know what the flow is after my return, I could actually go around and use a simple hood and measure the supplies. And this is a estimated leakage, but if I have so much the airflow that's coming out of my unit and I go figure out what are my supplies, there's an indirect concept now. Like I can kind of estimate that, do I have a lot of leakage? And if I know where my ducts are, then it would be leakaged outside. So there's a lot of ways to actually now to kind of confirm what are my issues and my challenges between airflow and duct supplying back into the house. So a lot of great training out there on this kind of stuff. So NCI is a number one source for using these kind of methods and promotes this regularly. And this is nothing new. This has actually been around since the ACCA has been promoting the QI5, which is, again, you're designing your system. You are testing the ductwork. You are doing airflow measurements, and you're imbalancing. So this is something that's built into measureQuick as an option, as the highest performance you can actually do. And this is not a really major challenge. People are like, oh, QI5, that's so hard. And the reality is it's actually very achievable. And lots of contractors across the country are doing this on a daily basis. And it's not that it's a possible task. They are differentiating themselves from others because they're actually verifying and confirming their performance with design and multiple tests. So I should introduce measureQuick because many of you may be familiar with TEC and the TrueFlow grid and the duct tester and the blower door, but measureQuick is something that still is a little mystery for some people. And we are a diagnostic application that's brand neutral. We actually work with a whole lot of other apps that are out there. These are all Bluetooth wireless tools. We gather them all together and then provide a variety of diagnostics based upon what you're reading. And one of the ones that's on there is the DG8 and 1000, which also means you're allowed to use the TrueFlow grid integrated into measureQuick. It's a great opportunity to do two great things in one time. But in general, we're usually the first stop to find out, is the system having problems and what can we do to upgrade it or make it be more functional in terms of getting efficiency and performance out of it. So that's really our main focus. And we probably work with a variety of tools that you've got there. This is what you're going to get out of measureQuick. You're actually going to get a score based upon the measurements that we did from all of our probes. And they're giving you refrigerant charge and heat transfer, air distribution, whether or not your refrigerant's working well, and your airflow is also working well based on our measurements. So you can use the TrueFlow grid, or we actually have our own method for measuring airflow with psychrometers. But in general, now I actually have an actionable number and actionable report to talk to my client about as to what are the things we need to be doing. Or maybe this is an older system and now it's time to start thinking about how do we upgrade or move into that. Or maybe there's a great rebate in your area like there is in mine, where you actually it's worth your time to look into getting a really good heat pump that's going to replace your existing system. Whether it's dual fuel or not, that depends on your climate and your rebates. But in general, many people are looking to do this, and it's a great option to give people more ability to control their comfort zones. These are the manometers. These are actually all of the tools that we're using. So we have two manometers. We have three psychrometers. One's outside for outdoor air. We've got refrigerant pressures and temperatures. And the electrical is an option, but those are all things that you would do. And those are going to give you your vital score, which I just showed you. It allows you to benchmark your system. So when people come back, they can confirm if it's working well. We also do live streaming, where I can actually have one technician stream their information live back to the shop or back to other technicians. These are all of the fundamentals that measureQuick is built onto. So it's not a snapshot of measurements. These are actually all 9 probes are on all the time, giving you live information, and they're completely dynamic, that actually are highlighting exactly what it is you need to know about this system while you're there at the time it's on. So here's the probes real quick. So inside, I've got one at the return, and I have one at the supply. These are not in the unit. Notice that we're not actually measuring the appliance, we're measuring the system. So this is where duct leakage outside and a variety of other stuff gets confirmed with the measurements that we have. We actually know your temperature, what your temperature split should be. And if your ducts are in the attic and it's a hot day, we could give you an estimate that you probably have duct leakage because your temperature split's too high. You're bringing in outside air into your ducts and your return's high, so we would actually give you that as a diagnostics. But our supply is actually in the register. We want really good temperatures from inside, not just what's on the face. So these are two of your indoor. The other one is you wanted to be doing your static pressure. This is something that everybody should be, if you're an HVAC contractor, you're doing energy diagnostics, this should be done every time, because you never know when the homeowner decide to go get the brand new super, MERV 3000 filter and try to block the airflow, thinking that they're also going to capture every particulate known to man. and they only restricted the airflow that was on there that caused not just airflow problems, but a variety of dynamic problems altogether, including what may show up in your refrigerant charge. We'll talk about that in a second, but this is one of the easier actually evaluations. This is part of what the TrueFlow grid is doing also. So if you want to kill two birds with one stone, the TrueFlow is going to give you these similar measurements plus more. They're actually going to do something more of a screening. So this is built into the NCI screening, which is in MeasureQuick. This is also in the TrueFlow grid app itself. You actually can do a static pressure screening by itself, which is just trying to just do static pressure. If you didn't have the grid, you can still do great diagnostics with their app. So, or with MeasureQuick. These are all free options that are in both of our apps. So if I want to find out if my return is too small and I have restrictions, or my filter is restricting, or my coil or my supply, whatever those things are that Steve kind of highlighted a few minutes ago that are on their report, these are the same things you're getting out of MeasureQuick and the NCI static pressure screening. So I could know within a few seconds as to what are my actual issues. And as he highlighted, a lot of times it's the return is too small or they've got a restricted filter. Those are things that are a lot easier to correct. And a lot of times they're actually really near the unit itself where I'm getting my great restrictions. If not, you're trying to figure out how do I make this as part of my upgrade in diagnostics. These are what's outside. So I have four inside. These are my outside probes. So I'm basically just measuring the refrigerant pressures and temperatures. And I have an outdoor air temperature, which gives me guidance as to how well everything is performing. Those are all of the 9 probes that you need. Once all those 9 probes are on and the system is at its full capacity, then I actually can give you great diagnostics as to what's going on or what the problems are. And there are some logistics where we talked about ducts and duct performance and airflow. So some of those will show up indirectly or directly in MeasureQuick. So you get free diagnostics in MeasureQuick. We do have options if you want to get more premier features, but in general, you can just get the probes, put them into MeasureQuick and get these free diagnostics. So it's giving you this great information that's on there, and they're all actionable. You click on any one of them that gives you information about what you should do next. Links you out to Brian Orr's HVAC school for more information for a lot of this stuff. So it's all live data built into to MeasureQuick. I could totally spend a lot more time on it, but in general, between our two tools, you can actually do an amazing assessment as to what's going on with this system. And if you think it's an outside issue with refrigerant charge, you need to be going to measure airflow before you make any adjustments with refrigerant charge. It's a real common problem in our industry that people are like, oh, I think it's low on charge. Or you need to pull some charge out. You need to find out if the airflow is correct. And the airflow doesn't happen visually. You must use a tool to measure airflow. And there's really the one that's the most accurate and the most dynamic is actually the TrueFlow grid. There's no other better way to measure true airflow than with the grid. These are some of the things you get there. Notice that system may be overcharged, but at the top it says potential return duct leak or energized heat strip. It means that our temperature split is too high. These are all the things you're getting in MeasureQuick as part of their free diagnostics. And it's telling you what to do and what to look for and how to step through those. We do offer some other premier services. So if you want to use our subscription, it's there. But I just thought I'd highlight some other options. So if you do need these other conditions and what these are, there's something you can reach out to us and we'll gladly assist you with that. But in general, the diagnostics I mentioned a second ago are all part of the free process that MeasureQuick includes. I tried to visualize and see if we couldn't explain that maybe you did design and commission a 400 CFM unit. And then you've come up later and find out that, well, now it's, we'll just say I haven't measured it yet, but I sense that there may be an airflow problem. And when I did measure it, I found out there's only 330 CFM, and people are failing to inspect these conditions before they're checking refrigerant charge. So I have a dirty blower wheel, I've got a dirty coil, I've got a dirty filter. All of these things are going to slow your airflow down. And these things are going to cause problems, not just system-wide with your airflow, but they're going to show up dynamically. And the other one would be if somebody set the speed wrong. There's a long list of stuff that could be happening with wrong motor, wrong settings, a variety of stuff that wasn't done initially, but people felt that there was cold air or hot air and they just ran out the door and all was good. So in general, these can actually create misdiagnosed refrigerant measurements outside that I may have a really low superheat or my subcooling could be off. There's a variety of conditions that would show up in my pressures outside and my temperatures that I'm getting on my refrigerant unit outside of the condenser that are really caused from actually airflow problems inside. And so we just want to make sure we remind you to be cautious about just adjusting the refrigerant to actually confirm whether the system is operating correctly without doing proper visual diagnostics and measurements of actual airflow. This is one of the greatest problems we have in our industry is people think everything's fixed with refrigerant, either more or less. So again, a fundamental rule is you need to make sure you not just confirm everything is clean and working, including the coil outside, but now I've measured what my airflow is. So I like that Steve had a one of those guides, and I started being like, oh, I'll let ChatGPT do the chutes and ladders. So a lot of the stuff that we'd be doing would start with measureQuick. If somebody's out doing measureQuick, they do diagnostics and realize that we have an issue, or they want to upgrade to a new system, maybe heat pump. So you are starting with the manual J, S. You can probably bypass the D if you jump on the ladder and go up and do the true flow grid and use the forecasting method. So now my forecasting method is going to tell me whether or not these ducts are sized correctly for my system that's there, or maybe they just need a few tweaks or adjustments to try and get the airflow out to certain areas. So I'm sealing it up or determining what I need to do to adjust those ducts, and then I jump up and make sure that my registers and my filter, and I have to use the TrueFlow grid again after I put in a new system to commission it with the airflow and then confirm it with MeasureQuick to confirm that I actually have the correct refrigerant charge and the correct airflow. And now I'm able to get a score out of that final. So here's your HVAC Shoots and Ladders games. You can stay at the end. I'll show you how to get your copy. But in general, notice the slides that are taking you back down. If you're just going to the refrigerant side, if you're only using your gauges, you are falling back to the question mark on scratching my head on number 5 because they didn't do their assessment. They didn't use the true flow grid. They're bypassing the tools that are out there for them. So unfortunately, that's number 5 is a common scenario that people can't figure out why adding or removing refrigerant is not the answer. This is Jim's Bergman's concept of what is a fail-proof process. So you can size the system well. You can get a quick manual J in a matter of minutes with using conduit or amply as a approved manual J ACCA approved process that actually walks you through the house and tells you what you should be doing. If your ducts are super bad or you need to make them tighter, which is a cautionary tale for heat pumps, you can use AeroSeal and you're going to forecast with TC once you've got your ducts in line and know what you're going to do if you replace something. All right. Next is we're selecting our equipment. We evacuate with the AccuTools or a similar system, and we set the airflow again with the TrueFlow grid, right? And when you're done, you can commission with MeasureQuick and even prove it with doing more of an ACCA manual J process. So this is the fundamental methods that are out there. Unfortunately, so many people are really not following through with doing some of these additional testing to confirm. If you don't test, you're guessing. That's a common theme that's been out there for quite a long time. That's me. Please reach out if you want to learn more or understand more about what Measure could do or how we work with the TrueFlow grid. So I appreciate you being here, and hopefully together we can slightly increase the amount of people that are improving ducts throughout the entire country. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you for walking us through those energy diagnostics and measure quick.